Some
agree.
breaking news if you want to.
Okay, let's do it.
Right before we were almost done, Tennessee has officially named Kelsey Pope their new wide receivers coach, he
Pope.
was already on staff, and they've done it via a video where they kind of bring him out and announce it in front of the team, and it looks like the team was pretty excited.
So that was a name we mentioned in our original discussion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is would Heupel be an internal hire guy? That feels right. That's that's good. You just keep the consistency. If that video clip is indicative of anything, I think the kids probably like this guy. With a lot of guys like that who are just sort of like quote unquote offensive assistants that don't really have, they sort of have an amorphous definition for who they are. We don't know a ton about necessarily what he was doing, probably, unless you're just in the facility every day. But now, clearly he was around. The kids know him. That's great. I'm all for it, and it makes sense because we were kind of saying they needed to make the hire before this big recruiting weekend, and essentially they already had.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I think it's good. I think, like I said, we can get too caught up in names at time, like David Johnson. Before David Johnson came to Tennessee, none of us knew anything about David Johnson. We didn't know who the wide receivers coach at Memphis was. I don't know who it is right now. He's just a name, but suddenly he's been at Tennessee, and once you're at Tennessee, everybody's going to kind of have that kind of nostalgic feeling to bring you back, even if you weren't like a overly popular assistant for whatever reason. It's kind of bizarre. The name doesn't matter. Kelsey Pope will bring continuity to the staff, and I think that because of the way Josh Heupel's offense operates, I think that is way more important than any name that Tennessee could have hired. So I think it's probably the right move.
Yeah, literally to my point about how like sort of the role of those guys is a little amorphous. Kelsey Pope, his page on Tennessee's official website is just blank. It just says offensive analyst, and there is nothing beyond that. It doesn't have his history. It doesn't have anything.
Yeah, they're going to want to fill that in.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some information forthcoming, but hey, that's good. It was that was our theory of what was gonna happen anyway. Everybody was talking about all these. Let's go back to Trooper Taylor and stuff. I don't think that was ever realistic, and it just ended up being somebody essentially that most of us have never.
He was
heard of, so.
He was the wide receivers coach and the passing game coordinator at Gardner Webb for a year before he came this past year to Tennessee whenever Josh Heupel came. He was the wide receivers coach at Tennessee Tech for a year, and he was an assistant coach at Ohio University and an assistant coach somewhere else. He went to Samford University. It's kind of funny. Once you get to a point as a coach, you don't have to update your LinkedIn page anymore. There is no LinkedIn page for Josh Heupel. He doesn't need that. But Kelsey Pope still has a LinkedIn page, and I think at some point, though, I feel like when you become an assistant at Tennessee, you can you don't need it. You'll get a Wikipedia page. People will know who you are. They're not going to. Josh Heupel is probably not on LinkedIn looking for a wide receivers coach this past week or couple of weeks.
That's really funny. He does. I'm looking at it. He does have a LinkedIn page. That genuinely, congratulations to him. That's a really exciting opportunity. I think you can't really make enough of that in terms of the significance. It says he's only 29, man. I mean, he's younger than me. And
you're going to start seeing that more and more. I'm a few years older than you, and it doesn't get any better.
Well, and it goes to our point, because we had sort of a long conversation about this a couple of weeks ago when we were really breaking down the initial news of losing the wide receivers coach. Being a position coach like that is just quickly becoming exclusively a young man's game, because it just is all about recruiting now, and recruiting is brutal. It just is. It's hard to have a family. It's hard to have a life when you have to commit the amount of time you have to commit to be good at that. Clearly, they like this guy. Clearly, he's doing a good job. And so
I think you either move up really quick or you try to get a job in the NFL. Like that.
Yeah.
You don't stay a wide receivers coach for a lengthy period of time. Rarely.
It's brutal, a brutal job typically, just because a lot of those guys are hired for recruiting acumen a lot of the time. And I said that was my one qualification. I'm glad that he has experience as a receivers coach. Clearly, he was already working with the receivers as an offensive analyst. But can he recruit? That was like my number one. That's more important than him being able to coach wide receivers because Josh Heupel's offense is just so good. Can this guy recruit? Hopefully he can. And hey, that's good. Congratulations to him. I'm sure he's getting a pretty sweet raise too. So that's awesome and just a really exciting opportunity. So we shall see what happens there. Oh,